over there. All right, well, I think most of you know who I am. My name's Liz. I'm the current president of the Friends of Black Hill and Morialta. I will start with some housekeeping. I will ask everyone to keep their audio on mute unless you're asking a question. I was going to say I'd like people to use their hands up when we're voting. We might have to unshare screens to make that work because we won't be able to see you all. If you want to send a question via chat, you can do that. I've got Garth watching the chat for me because I tend to just waffle and not notice things like that happening. So if you can't unmute and talk to us, you can still send a chat and ask questions and I'll happily answer them. If you're having problems with the meeting quality, you might find it better to turn off your own video if it's not coming through fast enough. And remember, you'll have to turn your microphone back on if you want to actually say something so that we can hear you. All right, I'm going to start by acknowledging that the parks that we work in are the traditional lands of the Kaurna people. And I would like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to all attendees. We don't seem to have as many as we normally would if we were meeting in person, which is a shame, but this is just the way things are this year. I'm going to hand over to John for a second so that he can tell us of any apologies he's received. As Secretary.
Thank you, Liz. I have to report I have no apologies.
Oh, okay. Thank you, John. Grace, has anybody sent you an apology? I know someone did when we were meeting in person, but... Oh,
I haven't had any since I sent out the email.
Okay. Thank you, Grace. We'll go straight to the minutes from the previous AGM. So the minutes were circulated to all members earlier in the year, and they're also available on our website. I would ask that the minutes that were circulated be accepted as a true copy of the meeting from 2019.
I second that proposal. Thank
you, John. Does anybody dissent? It's probably easier to say that than it is to say, does everybody agree? Does anybody dissent? Is there anyone that wants to add anything to the minutes? Okay, we'll get going. Well, most of you know all of this. We look after 3 parks, Horsnell Gully, Black Hill and Morialta. We've been moved from the central Mount Adelaide and Mount Lofty region into the Northern Lofty region for the Department of Environment and Water Administration reasons. We've also now not got natural resource management boards anymore. We've got landscape boards and they run along council boundaries, basically. Certainly for us, they do. This is proving to be a bit interesting for us because I'm running my mouse down the red line, which is the Campbelltown Council boundary. And as you can see, most of Black Hill and all of Morialta is actually in the Adelaide Hills Council. And then we've got this funny little bit of Black Hill that gets into Campbelltown Council, and Horsnell Gully is also right on the edge of the Burnside Council. So again, we've been considered part of Adelaide Hills. And what that means is that with the new landscape boards, there's one called Green Adelaide and another one called the Hills and Fleurieu Landscape Board. And we've been lumped into the Hills and Fleurieu Landscape Board. And the way they're funding all of the, what was the NRM works is now the new landscape board works, is that if you live in the area, that's where your funding comes from. So basically, even though most of the people that use our parks live in Adelaide, most of the people who are our members live in Adelaide, our money isn't going into any of our parks because they've put them into the Hills and Fleurieu, and there's actually far fewer funds in that area than there is in the Green Adelaide one. So it's a bit of a disappointment for us, but that's how things are. This year we have changed slightly the way we're recording our project hours, and Paul Farmer is kindly collating all that information for us. Got a pretty graph here for you, which is showing you the amount of time which has gone into each project area since the 1st of January 2020 to the 30th of September 2020. The contractor hours are listed up there, and whilst they're listed there, they're not actually included in our total volunteer hours. And so far this year, we have put 2,661 hours on park. So even though we've all had COVID-19, we've still managed to get out quite a lot. We're also recording the time slightly differently. Paul has broken them down into the key activities for us, and I'll just describe those for the people that don't know what they are. The primary is weeding, which is working on primary infestations of weeds, usually new areas in a project site. When we sweep, this is really where most of our time we expect that to be spent, because you're sweeping an area once you've done your primary weeding, but you're having to continually return to perform follow-up. The next one I want to talk about is patrolling. By then your job's almost done. You've done a really good job. You've cleared all the weeds and you've got rid of your seed source. And you're just going out once every 2 to 3 years to patrol to make sure that no weeds are re-establishing themselves. And then there's another section we have called Other there, and some examples of the other are mapping, camera trapping, on-park project planning, and things like the Wildflower Garden Planting Day and the spring walk that we held all come under the category of Other. With our 2020 memberships, we've ended the year with a total voting membership of 107. So I would like to take the opportunity to welcome our new members. I think we've got a few along tonight. Certainly I know Dorsa and Kate, and I'm pretty sure Angelique, you were new this year too. So it's broken up into 22 concessional memberships, 35 individual ones, 22 households, which actually represents 44 voting members, because each household can have 2 voting members. And we do have 6 community groups as a member. Membership numbers have been slowly increasing over time, but in fact, the last 6 months, they just went whoosh. We've seen a significant jump, a big 20% increase really since COVID-19. And we're questioning, is this the COVID factor? And we don't actually know. And I guess we'll work that out in the next year or two. Last year, our individual membership reached 101 because groups don't count as individuals, which is up from 24 from 2009 by 24 from 2019. And we already for 2021 have 93 voting members, which is more than meeting our requirement, our minimum requirement of 50 to satisfy our registered environmental organisation registration. So thank you everyone for being a member, making a big difference. This year, instead of just covering each project separately, I was going to talk about some of our more significant projects in the park. I'm going to start with Ornithogalum. Ornithogalum is a significant emerging weed and it exists in all 3 of our parks. We were able to obtain some grant funding to cover the complete control of all infestations of Ornithogalum in Black Hill and Morialta this year. Oops, I'm waving my mouse around on the wrong picture. So they're all the infestations, Black Hill, Morialta. It's an interesting weed because the best method is control, because it's a bulb, is actually to do 2 visits. One is bulb emergence to get as many bulbs out of the ground as possible. And the second time is at flowering time to ensure that you remove as many flower heads as possible so there are no new seeds dropped. So we were able to do that in all of our Black Hill Morialta sites this year, and that's setting us up really well for long-term control in those parks. The word on the ground is 3 or 4 years of that type of control and you should be able to eliminate. as long as you can get them all. By the time flowers are emerging, many of the bulbs have gone dormant, and so it's too late to try and do your control once the flowers have come up. But we're learning all the time with this weed. In Horsnell Gully, we actually only had the funds to have contractors visit the second time round in September, which has at least significantly reduced the seed spread. And we did have the wins with the contractor preventing spread in our priority 1 area of Horsnell Gully, and that's our highest quality bush site. And they've also cleared flower heads along the track there. Oops. So along the track there, which has sort of stopped people from picking the flowers and moving them along the track. We were finding that's how they were most likely to get spread. And we've also installed signs to explain to people why they should not pick those flowers and spread them around. Unfortunately, COVID-19 handed us a big loss with Pembroke High School closing down the community care program. The project has run since 1989, so it's over 30 years in parks. We've had students coming out and working in our parks each week during term time. And because of COVID-19, it hasn't recommenced. They used to go into childcare places, old age homes, come out to our park. They used to do quite a lot of things in the community, but they're just not able to go into so many places. They unfortunately have shut down the whole program. And at this stage, there's no intention to start it up again. Last year at the AGM, I did actually show that photograph on the left and tell people that there were going to be some works done in the Horsnell Gully tracks. And the photo on the right is showing you exactly the same location, though it doesn't quite look like it. This is the really dramatic results once the contractors came through and got rid of that blackberry down the track. Moving to major projects in Black Hill. In the Wildflower Garden, there was a project to connect up dead-end trails and install some permanent seating. And all of that work went very well despite COVID-19. We also hosted a COVID-safe planting day by staggering start times for volunteers and splitting into small groups with a team leader for performing works. This works so well that we've actually started to incorporate it into hosting other events, where possible, providing higher quality mentoring of new volunteers. We found it's really worked really well with, just helping people come out for the first time. We had 56 people come along to that event, and already some of the species are flowering beautifully. So that's an excellent result on the ground. We've had some great results in Amber's Gully as well. For those who don't know about our Free a Tree project, it targets saving significant trees that were being surrounded by olives, stressed, and in fact, some of them were dying. In fact, one of those photos, you can see a dead one in the background. But you can also see the ones in the foreground, we have managed to get rid of those olives. What we've noticed is it takes about 2 winters for the trees to bounce back. So by this time next year, we would expect to see some of the trees that were treated recovering much more dramatically and seeing far more overstory coming back. We also had really good results with an Erica seedling trials in the Amber's Gully site, and that's provided us with an efficient option for getting rid of seedlings coming up in the areas which we have removed significant amounts of Erica already. After consulting with Anthony Abley, our regional parks ecologist, we have determined that it will be best to continue focusing on protecting even more significant trees in the short term by moving into the Sugarloaves side of the Amber's Gully track, rather than continuing to just clearing the scattered olives in Amber's Gully side itself. I'm going to move across to Morialta now. The Morialta program used to be funded and managed by our NRM officer before all of the new landscape boards, but we kind of had an inkling that there was going to be a bit of disruption moving from the boards to the old NRM boards to the new landscape ones. So forewarned is forearmed, and we did manage to secure funding to treat this weed in Morialta through 2 different grants. Muraltia is the highest priority weed in the Morialta Conservation Park. So all 41 known Muraltia sites in Morialta were treated this year, and there were far fewer plants found overall, which is the first time that that's happened really significantly. So we hope this means the populations are finally getting smaller and the seed sources being exhausted. Unfortunately, we did find our first site in Horsnell Gully, and there were 12 plants located on the Rockdale Hill track and removed. We did host 2 different Muraltia community events. The first one was with the climbers in the climbing area in September, and the second one was our Where the Wild Things Are community day held in October. Both were highly successful. They both highlighted why this weed is so difficult for us as volunteers to contain. Finding single plants that are just 10 centimetres high. I don't know if you can see the ones held in Anthony and Ross's hands there. They're just 10 centimetres high, but they're flowering already. It's a pretty big task to ask new volunteers, and I was really impressed at what was actually achieved out there on the day. So again, thanks go to all the people who helped make this event a success. Many of you won't have seen this particular map before. It was a map put together by Marcus Pickett, and it just shows you all of the suitable Chestnut-Rumped Heathwren habitat in Morialta. So that is actually an outline of Morialta Conservation Park. The blue dots, which are probably difficult to see on your screen, but you can also tell that they're surrounded by these are the blue dots, and they're surrounded by the bigger circles to give accuracy information. That's where Chestnut-Rumped Heathrens have definitely been sighted in the last few years. And I just want to keep you to keep that picture in mind as I flip to the next screen, because this one is showing you the Chestnut-Rumped Heathwren works that we've actually completed. The areas marked in blue show the locations where primary weeding has been completed since 2016. Some of it's had follow-up work, some of it hasn't. Some of it could have been performed by volunteers, it could have been performed by our Green Army team, fire management unit, or contractors, but the good news is it's all been swept once. We've had a post-fire granting funding has put us in a great position moving forwards. There's all of these areas marked in orange. We'll have contractors go in and work on them this year. They have funding for them up to the end of May 2021, and some of that will actually include going through this whole area and doing follow-up work. This project has been highly successful, and we really hope to be able to continue protecting these important Chestnut-Rumped Heathwren areas, mostly by attracting funding. And here I have some pictures of the Elusive Bandicoot. We have had positive southern brown bandicoot and Chestnut-Rumped Heathwren sightings made by contractors in the past 12 months while they've been working on park for us, which is kind of exciting. It's exciting for me because I've never managed to see either of them in the flesh. I've just managed to capture them on photographs. In the month from September, 20th September, the 20th of October, that's when these photos were captured. So they're very recent. We also in the same site found superb fairy wrens, which we often find when we find bandicoots, which I don't know why, but it's every time we find a bandicoot, we also find superb fairy wrens. Hopping past the camera this month, we had kangaroos, we had koalas walking by, echidna, yellow-footed antechinus, and yet we also had, the reason they're also threatened, we had a fox come through, so more than once. So it's all out there. It's just a matter of knowing how to find it. So complementing our Chestnut-Rumped Heathwren works this year, we actually had the Biology Society of South Australia took us for our spring walk, and they helped us identify some of the really interesting species down along the Third Falls track. We went out in September, which was a fabulous time to experience the wildflowers, and we logged many of our findings on the iNaturalist app. which is fantastic for us moving forwards, because the more we log this type of information, the more we know what's there, the more we know where to find these things if we need to find them another time. So 2020 has been a bit of a year for everybody to look after each other. I would like to thank volunteers for their understanding around the COVID-19 requirements, and really to thank all Australians for understanding the huge consequences this virus would have if it spread through our country the same way as it has through America and Europe. And coming up in 2021, we'll have a new website. I've got the wrong year up there, sorry. Next year, not this year. We're really hoping that the new website will connect with more people and make engaging with us much easier, because it's not so easy at the moment. If anyone would like to be involved in putting the new website together, please let us know, or let me know. I'd really like to thank the outgoing committee. They've put a lot of work in this year, and I think we've really achieved a lot. We've put together things in place that you can't see on the outside, but on the inside it's making our lives easier. I'd like to thank all the project coordinators, the team leaders that have helped out on Park, all of you wonderful volunteers, and of course all our members, even those that don't come out and volunteer on Park, because you all help support the group and make a difference on the ground. I also, while I'm here, would like to thank both Steph Cole and Alira Taylor-Wilkins. They're our current rangers. Steph is our senior ranger at the moment, and she's online with us tonight. And Ranger Alira is also here. And Steph is just going to say a few words on behalf of the National Parks and Wildlife